Of Lower Manhattan. Thank you both.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
For the government explanation and the problem of the air quality near the site of the attacks, as I mentioned, we are joined tonight by the head of the EPA, former New Jersey Governor Christie Todd Whitman. And Governor, we've dumped this nicely all on your plate now.
Oh, yes, you have.
And things seem, you know, when it said that the Freedom of Information Act had to be invoked, it sounds very sinister that the government was covering up the results of the test. First of all, what should the role of common sense have been in Lower Manhattan? Second of all, do we know everything? Was it an honest assessment that the air was safe to breathe?
Sure.
Is that what the EPA knew?
There are several things here. First of all, it didn't take Freedom of Information Act. As soon as we verified the data, we were putting it out. We didn't have it up on the website that we do now, which is extraordinarily comprehensive, because don't forget, our offices are within blocks of the site as well. We had to evacuate. We had people set up an emergency site, and my people, the EPA people, really did an incredible job to start the testing right at the beginning. And I was there at Ground Zero 2 days after the attack. And at the time I was saying, and we were saying right along, first of all, people working at the site must wear respirators, and anybody that had any kind of respiratory problem shouldn't be down there. They should obviously take some precautions. When the dust was really massive, there were still the very hot fires going on. And then subsequently, as we have done tests, we've done about 10,000 air samples, over 4,000 for asbestos, and we really, as far as the air in and around the site, what we have seen is that it is not posing a threat to people who live and work. However, again, we said from the beginning, if you live there and you had any kind of breach, a window open, a broken window, anything like that in your apartment, or you have a heavy amount of dust, you should get a professional cleaner to clean it out. That just wiping it down, using your regular vacuum cleaner, that's not good enough. But you know, we provide that information, and then it's up to the City Health Department and OSHA and others to follow up on that. And we're very concerned. Our Office of Research and Development is actually looking at how we can track people to see what the concentrations mean when you are subjected to a lot of different particulate matter over a period of time. And of course, the Center for Disease Control has about $5 million to specifically track those who live in the area and firefighters to see what the long-term health implications are.
So how did all of these kind of urban myths, generators running on mercury, nerve gas being produced as a chemical reaction, how did that all start?
Well, there was Freon in those buildings, and we knew there was Freon there. We had special monitors that we gave to people who were working on site to detect if there was any of Freon escaping, because Freon in and of itself was not the problem. It's when it's exposed to excessive heat that it can transmute into something that is very dangerous. And so we had people going in. If anybody on site thought they had a hit of something bad, one of our people would go in and do the testing. We'd pull everybody back until we got the results back from the test, and they could go back in. And so there are a lot of things in the buildings. We've been very concerned. We're testing the air, we're testing the water, we're testing the dust. And we're going to continue to do that. You know, none of us have dealt with this kind of a massive type of exposure of so many different things, but we're looking for all those indicators that we know of that pose health threats, and are trying to make sure that we get a better understanding of what the long-term impacts are going to be. But for the ambient air quality in the area, it does not pose a threat. As I say, there are 800 EPA employees who live or who work right in that area, and so we are very, very sensitive to it beyond our ordinary responsibilities and sensitivities.
They have a joke on U.S. submarines that's kind of gallows humor, that they don't trust any air they can't see. And it's, of course, it's funny where the Lower Manhattan area was concerned. You could see the air. Should common sense have kicked in? Obviously, it wasn't good for you. Should the EPA statement be, look, folks, there was lead in that building. There's lead everywhere. Of course, we're going to hear later on that there was lead in the air.
Well, what we did is we went in and did the tests, and then we told people what was there and what the air quality, what the dust samples were showing us, what the water samples were showing us. As far as the health risks, Center for Disease Control and the State Department and City Departments of Health are the ones who control that and the ones who understand what the health impacts are. But what we do is we go in and test and say, look, this is what's here, this is what we're finding, here are the standards that are safe. We got early hits, and we were very clear about that. There were hits at time where we saw it above background levels. We tell the city, they'd go in, they'd clean up, we go back in and test, and then it was okay again. So, you know, look, there was a massive occurrence that happened here. It was something that obviously put a lot of stuff into the air. We went in and we've tested. There were times times when we saw high levels, anybody that was down in that area breathing it, of course it's an irritant. There was particulate matter in the air. Everybody knew that. You could see it. What we were trying to say is, okay, what's in that particulate matter that poses a health threat? And what we're not seeing now is anything that poses a threat at the moment. At the time, it was very, very clear, and we said it over and over again, and unfortunately, everybody responding to a crisis, all they wanted to do was to get in there and do their job, and they didn't want, or they didn't always have access. I guess some of them were saying they didn't have access to all the breathing apparatus they should have had. We provided, I know, respirators for them from EPA, but OSHA and others also provided, the city and the state. They didn't always wear them. They had them hanging around their necks. I saw that when I was down there, and you wanted to say to them, I know it's uncomfortable, but please, please put these things on. It really will make a difference.
Well, Governor, it's a dangerous business. You're nice to come on and answer the charges and take our questions. EPA Administrator Christie Whitman, thank you very much.
Thanks, Brian.
We'll take a break here. When we come back, the most senior member of Congress forced to submit to a strip search when